Let's speak to Alexey Muraviev, the Associate Professor of National Security and Strategic Studies at Australia's Curtin University. Great to see you, Alexey. Thank you very much for your time. Is the two-week window that Donald Trump is offering just a chance for Israel to finish the job before Donald Trump has to make that final decision? Is that what he's allowing in this time frame?
Look, I think if anything, if Donald Trump will resort to the military option, I think it would happen before the 2 weeks deadline, simply because right now the United States is finishing prepositioning its forces in the theater. The Israeli offensive against Iran has retained its momentum, so the 2 weeks may actually give the Iranians a time to rebreathe. For example, neutralize Israeli agents on the ground, regroup its forces, and we don't know how long the Israelis will be able to hold on and withstand Iranian ongoing missile strikes. Already, it's been suggested that the Iron Dome intercept system has been struggling to intercept incoming missiles, even though the Iranians are firing less, but their lethality retains pretty high. So I think Donald Trump may be entertaining the idea of actually resorting to negotiations after delivering some sort of a surgical blow to the Iranians, should once again he would resort to the nuclear option after these 2 weeks. So I'm not thinking that he may give 2 weeks in terms of trying to find a political solution, rather than he make a decision if he needs to go in, he wants to go in militarily, it has to be now rather than in 2 weeks' time.
Alexey, has anything in the past week, we're now into the 8th day, taken you by surprise? As an extreme expert in this field, have you discovered anything new?
Look, I think the fact that the Iranians were so unprepared, clearly the Israelis came up with an innovative way of neutralizing their air defenses when they used effectively similar tactics to what the Ukrainians used against the Russian strategic bomber sites when they attacked Iran from within the country. The fact that they managed to assemble a significant recruitment force and an assembly facility inside Iran, the fact that they managed to pinpoint and track some key persons of interest, that all demonstrates, and that's obviously happening against the backdrop of heightened tensions between the Iranians and the Israelis. On the other hand, we haven't seen so much devastation that has been inflicted upon Israel since probably Saddam Hussein strikes on Israeli sides back in 1991. So the scale of violence, the fact that both countries talk about existential threat, and the fact that they are indicating this is not just about neutralizing each other's threat, that's a fight for national survival. That escalating rhetoric is what really has taken me, because it may also be an indication of the will, or in fact lack of it, to find a political solution or some sort of a trade-off in the short term. Or on the other hand, it may also be part of this tactic, or intimidating tactic, and as well as determination tactic, that both sides are using to demonstrate that they are strong in the face of the threat, and they're not prepared to negotiate or demonstrate any weaknesses with regards to the domestic opinion at home.
Do you see Israel's war aims as being achievable in the shorter or more medium term? In other words, okay, maybe in 5-10 years they'll get to where they want. But in terms of destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities, of possibly even killing the supreme leader, of prompting regime change, are those achievable in the shorter term?
Well, to be honest, I'm not really sure how achievable it is. You know, Iran is not exactly Lebanon or neighboring Syria. The Israelis have been quite systematic. I think one of the reasons why, for example, the Israelis feel confident in attacking Iran these days, because if we put it in some sort of time horizon, we need to remember that the Israelis neutralized Hezbollah. Imagine if Hezbollah would still be very much active and operational, and they would start firing their rockets into into Israel simultaneously with Iranian attacks, I think the Iron Dome or other forms of Israelis' air defense or ballistic missile defense will be overwhelmed very, very quickly, and the damage that the Iranians would be able to inflict upon Israel would have been far more greater. But more importantly, Israel managed to neutralize any risks to its territory from possible incursions, leave alone ground invasion, by effectively neutralizing Hezbollah, by securing southern Lebanon, and also by establishing a buffer zone inside Syria, by extending their presence across Golan Heights and into Syria. And that gave the Israelis extra confidence in taking on Iran. Having said that, I'm not really sure how much Israel can carry on the operational tempo, because I'm not sure that the Israelis will have sufficient arsenal and sufficient firepower to carry on this offensive indefinitely. And given the complexity of Iranian geography, given the fact that many of the underground facilities are really in hardened areas and can be only taken out either by very few solutions that are not available to the Israeli Defense Force, or in fact can only be attacked by using, for example, low-yield technical nuclear munitions, that's kind of a different story, and that's a different level of escalation. And I'm not really sure how much the region would be welcoming that dramatic shift of the balance of power, because we need to remember, if Iran will go down, if there's going to be a regime change in Iran, there's going to be a profound effect on the regional balance of power, not just across the Gulf region and the Arabian Peninsula, but far broader. And we would see the implications of that and the follow-up on that right across the globe. And very quickly, returning back to Donald Trump thinking, again, he may be thinking that maybe this is the time for him to have a short victorious war in the Middle East, but in longer term, he may be facing far greater challenges, because countries like Russia and China may be looking at it and thinking, well, we'll probably need to unite forces even more in terms of facing actions coming from Washington under Donald Trump.
Alexey Muraviev, thank you so much.